the camera. Let's talk about that.
How's it going up there on the
Are you guys good? Yeah, we're gonna fucking DoorDash right now.
walk up? It's gonna be no, they kept going.
Yeah.
They were doing that. Okay,
It didn't even phase them.
oh, who ordered the tax?
Hey everybody, it is Sean Shank with the Sean Shank Redemption Podcast. Welcome back. This week, very excited. We have got a very special guest. It is my first pop singer, musician, star, actress, artist, everything under the sun. I want to say a great big welcome to Nathalie King.
Hello, everybody. I didn't know I was an actress, Sean.
Well, you've done all kinds of things. You speak like 500 languages. All right. I'm not going to shortchange you on this podcast. Are you kidding me?
Thanks.
So before we get into it, though, I want to give a big shout out to my sponsors. First of all, Black Label Chronometers. Ryan Babb. He is amazing. He takes old LPs and he puts custom timepieces on them. And whatever you can come up with, Ryan will take it and make it better. So check him out on Facebook. Check him out on his website, Black Label Chronometers. Also, I want to give a shout out to myvibe.com. That's myvyv.com. If you have the 2 o'clock slumps, you're in the office, you're tired, you want to go home, you're just not feeling it, you crack one of these open, it'll refresh you, you'll feel better, and you'll get powered through the end of the day. So check out myvibe.com. That's myvyv.com. And on either of my sponsors, whether Black Label Chronometers or My Vibe, use the code SHANK15, that's SHANK15, and they'll give you a nice discount. All right, so now that is out of the way, Ms. King, would you, I don't even know where to start with everything that encompasses what you are. There's so much. Can you just kind of give the viewing and listening audience an idea of who you are and everything that you do?
Yes, I'm a human on this planet. And I decided I had a lot of curiosities that I wanted to learn things and skills. So I started off with music. Then I took a divert into studying film, studying animation, and actually also having a diploma in acting. And then I went back to music, and now I'm a, professional animation artist, filmmaker, and singer-songwriter who's focused on sync in film, commercials, TV. So I write music for those things. And that's my life, I guess.
Okay, so but what's amazing about this is you're like, yeah, this is my life, but contextually, with my my life, I teach college, I do stand up, I write, and I cartoon and blacksmith. I do a few things, right?
That's
People,
cool.
yes, but here's the thing: people look at my life and they're like, "Wow, you do so many cool things." Yes, I do some cool things. But you're one of the few people I've met in my life that, with all that I do, I'm just like, I can't even touch everything that you're doing. Like you are so accomplished with your music and the thing is, it's not just like, I'm not an artisan as an example with blacksmithing, but I am pretty good. You, on the other hand, with your art, as an example, is it considered stop motion? What is it that you do?
I actually forgot something. I also, for the last 3 or 4 years, I I did a paper cut business. I started doing that during COVID, cutting papers.
Mm-hmm.
I was inspired by a German artist that died a long time ago, and she did these on black paper, these silhouettes. You know how you can have your profile cut out of your face, but then you do that with entire figurines and sceneries. So I started doing that during COVID, and then I turned it into a business. And then I was on the news and had a few exhibitions, and I started selling stuff. And then I also was on that TV show. I was approached to do the, some of the paper cuts for the set design for a show with Patricia Clarkson, which I do not recommend watching because the writing was horrible. They should have hired you for the writing. Gosh, and the acting, yeah, no. But anywho, it's cool to have my art on a TV show with a big Hollywood name on. And yeah, so I guess paper cutting, that's what it is. That's what the word you were looking for.
Paper cutting, yes. And to give the listeners somewhat some context, if you remember the movie The Deathly Hallows, and this is only adjacent, it's not the same thing. But when they did the animated sequence, when they were describing how the Deathly Hallows came about with, the death and the three wizards, the brothers, it kind of, that's an animated version of what Natalie does, but hers is actually the physical pieces. So it's like between an animation and stop motion. It's like Victorian South Park almost.
I love that,
It
Victoria.
is, it is, but it's exquisite. Like your work is sublime. And where, if somebody wanted to see your paper cut work, first of all, where would they look?
Probably my Instagram or Facebook for that paper cut art, which is Mad Cutter. I think it's Mad_Cutter.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
So, and there are myriad things to talk about with your career, but let's, since we're talking about this, can you describe the process? Because I know in talking to you what you go through to a degree, but can you kind of explain the process to the folks that are listening of what actually goes into this? Like, to do like the TV show as an example, the number of cutouts and how many hours and everything, because it is mind blowing.
Are we now focusing on paper cutting or?
We're going to focus on everything. Since we're talking about it, I'm just like, you know what? Let's just to show the folks the level of dedication you put into your art. I think this is a good one as an example.
Well, that's the thing. Look, life is short. Like we have around, what is it, 4,400 or 44,000? I don't know, something with the number 4. I told you that recently.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 4,400 weeks or weekends in an average lifespan. Damn it, I should get that number right, but it was something along those lines. So that doesn't sound that much. I think it was like 4,000 weekends or something is the average lifespan. So I want to do as much living as possible. So if I love paper cutting one day, and I'm like, hey, this is really cool. And hey, I actually want, this is getting good and I want to turn this into a business. I think whatever you set your mind to, you can do. And I think I've proven it with like some side projects that, I turn into a business, because I think, yeah, all you need to do is just dedication and not letting go, and just like continue honing your skills and then getting out there,
Right.
That's all you can do. And then that's how people, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? That's how people recognize your art. That's how people approach you and want to work with you.
Right. Absolutely.
So, yeah, to answer your question, like one paper cut, it depends. Like one that's like 8.5 by 11 takes me about maybe 2 days or something. And I use a razor blade. It's the same blade that they use for surgery on people.
Mm-hmm.
The number 11, it's like a specific blade. And
Yeah.
so I use that one for the intricate details inside. And then once that is done, I cut the outside with a small pair of scissors. I wish I had some example here to show you. Actually, I can show you on my phone. Yeah, so about maybe 2 to 3 days to like draw it, design it, and then do the cutting.
And you had a short film that, if I remember correctly, was taken on by some film festivals and things.
Yes. Can you see this?
I can, and that's beautiful. But what was the name of your film that went to the film festivals, and how many hours did it take to create that piece?
So the one you're talking about was the one I did in 2019, and it was also paper cut silhouettes. But then what I did is I plucked little limbs on them, so you could move them around, make like actual like paper puppets. And yeah, then I did a stop motion with them. So I put them on a piece of glass. I had a light from underneath, so you have like a lit up background and the camera on top. And that took 4 months out of my life where I didn't work because I'm a freelancer, so I can, schedule my own work time. So I did that for 4 months, and it was painstakingly.
Like
Uh,
literally though, like you'd hurt your back and things, right?
yeah, I mean, I always have back pain because I'm like working hunched over in animation and paper cutting and stuff. But yeah, that one, sometimes I was so frustrated because you need so much patience and you have to move them millimeter by millimeter. And sometimes if it like moves or you check back on the camera and it's like, oh shit, it moved too far and I have to start back a few frames again. It's just like, so I don't know. It really tested my patience, and I feel like I've grown a bit of patience from that project. And it turned out well. It was actually a music video of one of my songs because I'm an independent artist. I don't have money for music videos, so I have to start, thinking out of the box and be creative. And then I thought, oh, why not use my filmmaking skills and do a paper cut stop motion animation? So I did that. And yeah, only took 4 months, but it turned out great. Went to lots of film festivals. I think it won finalists in 2, and that's it. Nothing much came out of it after.
Well, now, if somebody were to search that out, would they find it on your Mad Hatter? Is it on YouTube? If people wanted to look up the music video / film that you made?
Yeah, so they can find it probably on my YouTube because that's where my music is, and just search for Nathalie King. And Sucker for Love was the song or the music video to the song.
Okay. Now, that actually leads us into a big portion of your life, which is your music. Now, now this jumps back to, and you live in Canada right now.
Canada.
Canada. Oh, don't you know? But you have lived in Germany. You've lived all over the world, and you've traveled all over the world. So, but early on, and I think it was Germany, you've been part of groups and things like. Could you give the listeners a brief history on like kind of where you came from with your music and how you came up in the industry to where you're at now?
Yeah, I came originally from Planet X, and I was sent to Earth to spy on everyone.
You're spinning your wheels talking to me all this time then.
Well, I don't look German, but I was born and raised in Germany. My dad is German. My mom is half French and half Vietnamese. So I'm a good mix. I left when I was 20, I think, to go to England. I finished my studies there. Then I went to Vancouver, did some more studying, and then I ended up in Toronto. So not really all over the world, just like Europe and Canada.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and I'm in Toronto still.
Okay. Now, is my memory correct that you were part of some sort of like girl group or band or something like that?
Oh, yeah. So I started early on with jazz. So I had a 4-year speech level singing education in Germany alongside high school. So it was like an out of curriculum thing. And then, yeah, I was singing jazz. I was part of a few bands. One of them was the Hot Cookies, which is a Motown band. They still exist, actually. So we toured around Munich, even a few places in Germany, and high-end hotels. And it was going really well in festivals. So that was Motown. And then, and then I moved to England. I didn't do music then because my, I guess, focus was on studying film. But then when I went back to Vancouver, I wanted to work at Pixar at some point. So I was like really focused on animation. But then when I moved to Toronto, I was like, you know what? I really miss music. And here's the thing, like I have a love of film and music. And it's like, oh, how can I clone myself to do both? I can. So the best version right now is, to make music for films, TV, and commercial, which, I do with my own music, but I also get hired to do that from clients at this point. And
Right.
also work as a designer, animation artist. I make my own music videos. So there's still that part of the film department that, is in part of my life.
So you've had, if see if I can remember these correctly, you've had music selected to be on the television show The Fosters. You have had music in the TV show Law and Order. All right. And yes, Law and Order, folks. You have had, what's that?
Law and Order Toronto.
It's Law and Order. It doesn't matter. It's Law and Order. Like there's Law and Order SVU. There's Law and Order. I don't know.
That show has gotten a lot of criticism. It came out in February. So
Really?
a month later, yeah, because apparently in the show the cops are actually doing something, versus in real life in Toronto, our crime rate has been going up the last few years. And there's like videos showing cops like they're not knowing what to do when there's like a vehicle that escapes and they're supposed to chase it. They're like, and then like stop running and then turn around and like, oh, what do we do? Like, horrible. You have all these thugs that are like breaking in just to try to find the keys of a car that they spotted that they want. It's like kind of insane right now.
Really? We always, the perception of the folks from Canada is that they're the friendliest ones in the world. The fact that you guys have crime is astounding to me.
Yeah, look it up. Just go on whatever, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and it has been changing in the last few years. So probably since COVID. And Toronto is the city with the highest crime rate in Canada.
Really? You know what? You've piqued my interest now, so I'm gonna have to let's take a look here. What is the crime rate in Toronto, Canada?
It doubled in the last year or so.
Here is information from cost of living.
Okay, so it says level of crime 47.56. I don't know what that means. Is that the age of the criminals? Worries being subject to a physical attack because of your skin color, ethnic origin, gender, or religion. 28.19. I'm imagining this is percentage out of some sort of population number. Problem violent crimes such as assault and armed robbery. Ooh, 45.36.
Is that the percentage maybe?
I think it's the percentage. Wow. I will say this. Toronto has a lower crime rate index. This is the crime rate index, I guess, is what those numbers represent. And they are only a few points lower than New York. So, yes, you guys are seeing some crime.
Yeah.
Shame on you, Toronto. What happened to the apologizing for like getting in people's ways? Like, oh, sorry. Oh, I have. Oh,
no. It's like a new generation of thugs. I don't know.
How can you be thuggish with a Canadian accent? Oh, I'm going to carjack you now. Oh.
No, it's actually pretty frightening when you see those videos on Instagram. It's like, wow, no.
Right. Well, you're in San. We were just talking about this before the show started recording. That you're currently in San Francisco for a Comic-Con thing.
Comic-Con, GDC. That's game developing.
I'm sorry.
That's for the people that make the people go to Comic-Con, like developers.
Okay. All right, so you guys are the ones that set the trends, where the next would sit at home and play the games. I get you. But you are seeing firsthand the conditions of San Francisco, which you're not, and you've seen it. So if you could relay that to folks that don't know what's going on there, and by no means is a criticism for those of you that are like, don't, you Canadian ripping on the country. It's not that, folks. So what are you seeing in the streets, especially downtown? Now, it's not everywhere, but like downtown, what have you experienced so far?
Yeah, downtown is really bad. Even if you go to Pier 39 where the sea lions are, it's way better there. I know it's very touristy, but it's outside and you can see the nice apartments and it's sunny and it's just very quiet and nice to live there. But the downtown core is really bad. It just smells like piss everywhere. You see people shooting up, lots of, I guess, homelessness and crazy people walk around without pants, like you being followed during the day in certain streets. It's like, it's not safe feeling.
Right.
And yeah, I can't with the smell. It's just, there's even a map. Oh my God, a friend of mine told me there is a map that exists where people can add the locations of where people have shat on the streets.
The human pooping.
So
Which
I have not
probably like 98.3 there.
But yeah, downtown right now it's okay because a lot of tourists, or not tourists, but developers are here for GDC because it's like the biggest conference.
Mhm.
So I guess it's lively and there's like a lot of normal people around, but still you can see through it. I don't know what the city's like when there's no conference going on. It just seems deserted too, like in terms of businesses closed. Yeah, I love the architecture and everything in San Fran, but it's just
Right.
very hard to see what it's the juxtaposition as well. You have like Michael Kors and whatever Louis Vuitton stores at Union Square, and then right outside, like all these homelessness going on and crazy people. It's
Right.
bizarre to look at that.
Coming from, and I mean, you're very well traveled and you've seen a lot of things, but you know, obviously we have perceptions, you know, just like I was saying with the Canadians, you know, we have this perception of everybody's so polite and, you know, there should be no crime there because everybody's so nice, right? But that's not the case, obviously. And the perception, I think, from the outside, perhaps, is that San Francisco, you know, it's like, you know, the Golden Gate Bridge and all of these things that make up the idea of San Francisco versus the reality. To somebody that is not from this country and has traveled the world, the perception versus reality, is it pretty shocking to you seeing what it
You're
is?
going to San Francisco. Yeah, I didn't see any flowers in anyone's hair. That's definitely a while ago, man. It is shocking. And I was actually in San Francisco in 2009 back then just to travel, and it wasn't like this. I'm guessing COVID really hit the world internationally or globally on a really bad level where the middle class is, you know, getting cut out. It's like either like the gap is getting bigger between real poverty and, you know, the 1%.
Right.
And yeah, it's not fun to look at.
What a shame.
It's gone up in Toronto as well. Like tent cities happening everywhere where people are in tents outside. And so I think it's a global issue, not just these cities, you know.
Okay. I did not real, but the thing is too, we are so, we have geographic blinders on, and unless we are getting news from outside of our country, our media, our state media here is very controlled. It's just like all the stuff that's going on in Paris, which you've been to Paris fairly recently.
Yeah. Last year, because some of my family lives there.
Okay, so and just so you folks know, Miss King speaks German, French. What else?
Well, basic Spanish because I had 4 years in school, but I don't practice it. But I can get by. So, but basic Spanish, and then yeah, German, French, and English. That's it.
Oh, I know that's it. Oh my goodness, you know, there there are there are plenty of people in this country that can barely speak English, and they were born here. Okay, but
Thing.
you know, in Paris right now, farmers have shut down the city and they're literally barricading, they're building walls to barricade the politicians into their buildings.
What? I haven't heard of that.
Right? Nobody does. But on TikTok and other social media platforms where it's not controlled yet, even though the American government has voted to get rid of TikTok because of Chinese people. That news is out there. We're actually seeing the videos and things of it, and people protesting, rising up.
I don't know. Sometimes my mom, who lives in Germany, sends me videos. Oh, what's going on in Canada? Because she saw something on YouTube or wherever, and I'm like, nothing. I'm in Toronto, and everything is fine, just like usual. And so, I feel like with TikTok and just independent videos that you can share through social platforms, you can also really influence people or paint a different picture of certain realities of certain countries. But in reality, it's not a big deal, or it doesn't really affect me living in that city. But my mom thinks, oh my god, Canada's burning or something, and it's like, so it has its pros and cons. I think that it's not all just media regulated, and that we can post as individuals our own experiences online. But honestly, we're so overwhelmed with all these videos out there. It's like, okay, what at the end of the day is important to you? Like, what affects you sitting in Michigan or in Germany? What's going on in Toronto? What is really important? What do you need to filter out? Like, we don't need all this bullcrap every day. It's just.
Oh, you know what? I don't disagree. I think that, or I feel that we as humans have our priorities completely screwed up. Instead of focusing on the P Diddy's and the Kylie Jenners and all those folks, we need to be focusing on, fixing our planet. I'm not getting into the global warming arguments. I'm talking about stopping pollution, being kind to your fellow person, those kind of things. We need to focus on building love and correcting what we've been doing to the environment, both the physical environment and the societal environment, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, whether or not, global warming is happening because of pollution or not, I'm not getting into that conversation, because you have these people and those people.
yes.
Just be a decent human being. Don't fucking throw your garbage or your plastic bottle into the environment. Like, what do you think is going to happen? That shit doesn't break down. It's not derived from like a mineral or a paper that breaks down back into earth. It's like, and it's disgusting, and animals like get caught into that stuff and suffer and die, and it's just ugly to look at as well, and it's not good. So just focus on being a kind human being, and then just I totally agree with what you said with focusing on, that's kind of the spiritual part of our lives. Like, how do I take care of my own energy and people around me? How am I a kind person to the place I live in, which is our nature, our planet, and the inhabitants of it, like animals and other humans. So I think it's good that we are seeing like a spiritual up movement in a way.
Right.
So who knows where this world is going? Because there's also like this whole new AI world and technology, and then there's the spiritual movements, and then mental health awareness, all these good things. But then there's also hypersensitivity of our society. It's like a weird mashed bag right now.
Yeah, it is. It is. But the thing is, to use the old saying, put your money where your mouth is, because if you look at the Sucker for Love, the paper cut video, it is an excoriation, but also I would say there's some hope to it about how we treat the environment, the things that are happening to the wildlife, bees, as an example. I don't think people realize how vitally important bees are to our existence, right?
Yeah.
But you've also worked with some filmmakers that do some environmental films and things like that, if I remember right.
Yes. Yes. I had, man, how did that happen? So I contacted Howard Hall, who's a very, very, I think, 11-time Emmy nominated or Emmy winning, actually, director for underwater documentaries. And when I was 9 years old back in Germany, I went to see his movie in IMAX. I don't remember what it was called, but it was so mind-blowing. And then I never imagined that so many years later I would actually have my song placed in one of his documentaries. It's actually released on PBS, the short version, and it's going around festivals right now. And the song was called Beautiful Soul. His documentary is called Soul of the Ocean. And they mainly show the beautiful underwater world and whales and whatnot, and they swim with them and film them. And then there's a section where they also show the destruction of the oceans through pollution, and that's very heartbreaking scene. And my song went on there, and it's like really, I cried when I saw that scene just because it hurt so much to see what we're doing to our nature.
Right.
But so that movie is beautiful and has a strong message at the same time. And yeah, so I'm really happy that I got to work with Howard Hall. I actually contacted him because I wanted some footage for my music video because I saw it on stock footage.
Mhm.
And then he graciously gave it to me for free. And then in return, I gave him my song for his movie. And yeah, so that was really lovely because I love to create awareness about our environment and just yeah through my art somehow, or like the partnerships or the projects that I'm part of.
Right.
It's really dear to my heart.
Right. But that's, I think that's something that's very important. You know, so many artists just give lip service to things. Like a good example would be Oprah Winfrey, and she continues to be on blast for all the Maui shenanigans, where with her multi-billion dollars and suspicious blue roofs, Oprah.
Can you elaborate what blue roofs?
Oh yeah, the homes that had blue roofs mysteriously didn't burn. Anything that had that particular color of blue in Chile, in Texas, Amarillo, Texas, and then Maui. If the blue roofs, blue cars, blue umbrellas didn't burn, this is why they have said that it was a direct energy weapon that caused these fires. And all of these billionaires' homes mysteriously had blue roofs. And then recently, Joe Biden, our president, said, about all the fires going on, in the houses, there were houses that didn't burn or all the homes that did burn because they didn't have the right roofs on them. He actually said that out loud. And everybody that has been talking about this as a conspiracy went, dude, he just said it. He just said it. So, with all that, anyway, I digress.
You sure it wasn't an AI version of Biden saying some shit?
No, this was legit because he did it at a conference. But where Oprah caught some flack, to get back to the point that's germane to this discussion, is that she went on TV with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and said, we need you guys to donate. And with out of control inflation and everything else that's going on, the economy's in the shitter. People were just like, bro, you are a multi-billionaire. You could carve off 100 million like it's nothing and take care of these people. Why are you asking us? We're struggling. And she got real quiet. And I think it is a wonderful thing when anybody that is a celebrity of any level, like what you're doing, where you legitimately believe and practice what you preach. You believe that we need to take care of the environment. So you actively seek out and work with people that are doing things to help bring up awareness, fix, do like all those things. I think that's incredibly important, right?
Well, I'm sure that they donate to other causes as well. Like we would have to actually look into their finances and see what they're doing. But I also think once you reach a certain fame status or whatever, it really skews your perspective on life. And obviously to maintain that lifestyle, you need a lot of money, like whatever big houses they live in and travel and all that stuff. And it also probably changes your perspective in a way that oh, you need more and more money, right? Even though you don't to
Yeah,
actually have, but
you don't. If you look at the actual amount that $1 billion is,
it's a lot of money.
it's a crazy amount of money. Like they just did some sort of mathematical breakdown of the money that the United States has sent to the Ukraine for the war effort, and it literally said that we could have solved the homeless problem in this country. Like no more homeless people, no more hunger, nothing. 8 times over.
Hmm.
8 times, and to me, it's just like we need to fix the real problems, right? And that's what, to get back to you, because this isn't about that. I appreciate what you do. I think it's valuable, and seeing the body of your work and what you continue to do, I think it's incredibly important. But because we don't have all the time in the world, let's talk about your work. You have done work for, help me out here, Sony, Universal, who all you worked with?
Yeah. So one of my, I guess, the clients is Universal in the UK, but their production department, so their sync library. So like they say, hey, we need songs for upcoming trailers, and we need a lot of revenge songs or villainess songs. Here's a brief. We need 2 songs. Write us this with these lyrics or these words in the lyrics and something along a certain BPM and a certain mood. Here you go. And then I write those. It goes in the library, and then that's how it actually ended up on Britain's Got Talent, on the Law and Order Toronto. That wasn't my doing. That was their contacts or their connections.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's one form of how my music ends up on TV if I write it for them. But then I also write my own music, and I actually have a single coming out in April, and the whole EP coming out at the end of the year, which I pitch to music supervisors as well. And then that's another way how it can end up on TV and whatnot. And the benefit is that I retain the master rights of my songs, which means any sync fees and royalties, most of it goes to me directly instead of to Universal, which
Nice.
is not a great deal, to be honest, for an artist. And then I also get hired to do voice work for like commercials in Canada. I want to branch out to the States as well because I heard they pay out better royalties.
Yeah.
So
So if anybody in the States is listening to this, hire Natalie. You can't go wrong. You have also, not just that you're supplying music for these libraries that are getting, placed on national television and commercial spots, but you've also collaborated with some pretty cool folks, like there, 07, one of my favorite bands of all time. I love
mine
07.
too. Mine too. I well sort of grew up like I think during university. When did the album came out? Oh my god, that the best album of 07, This World, I think. Did it come out in 2012 or something? Anyway, that was like mind blowing. And Moses, who's like a feature artist, also worked on a few tracks with them. And I did one track with him
Mhm.
recently, 2 years ago, I think. And that one is to be found as well on YouTube and Spotify. Uh, yeah, so we did one single together. He's such a cool dude as well. Very, I guess, more like conspiracy leaning, very on the same spiritual movement, and you know,
So his mind's in the right place. Cool, got it.
he would get along with you. He gets along with me, so.
What's it like? What's it like collaborating with, and because I'm to the point in my comedy career that I'm doing shows with people that I, came up idolizing on TV and seeing them do things, and now these people are my peers to a degree. What is it like going through the creative process of making music with somebody like Moses, where you're like, dude, I love this band that you're, but now you're working together, like actually talk what that's like kind of behind the scenes for folks that, don't really know much about your industry.
Yeah, I think so. I guess, let's see. I think the most high profile people I've worked with was Moses from Zero Seven. Well, he's actually not part of the band. He was a feature artist for that band. And Howard Hall, the director. They're just like normal people because you start emailing and chatting on the phone, and because we all work remote together, right?
Mhm.
That's a benefit of these times. I think you can totally work from a studio in Toronto, your own home studio, and work with somebody in the UK or in the States. And so at the end of the day, it just feels like you get to know each other, you talk, and then you talk about the song or the film and the project together. And then it just becomes very normal. And if you click with those people because they're like on the same wavelength than you and have the same values, then it just feels really nice. And it just feels like a good friend or good professional person that's like aligning with my values. So it doesn't feel like, oh, it just feels like, yeah, I dig you as a human, and just feels normal, if that makes sense.
No, it does. So, and there, it's funny because I remember when I met you years ago at America's Got Talent. You just it's that instant energy kind of match up click when you meet somebody. You're like, we're gonna be friends, and it just goes well. And I
That was a
found
while ago.
it was a bit.
2012?
I Yeah, I think it was around that time because that was really on with Laugh Comedy Club. But we met in Chicago,
Yeah,
right?
Chicago.
Okay, so there's that side of the spectrum, and without naming names or anything like that,
Uh-oh.
in your industry,
Where are we going now? I know where we're going now.
running into difficult situations in the music industry. I know what it's like in the comedy industry, okay, and somewhat in the literature industry. But as far as music is concerned, what are some of the things that you see that you're just like, this is gross, like people basically, I don't want to say stolen valor or thing, but what are some things that you see in the music industry? You're like, man, this is just, you guys are making things worse and you're giving us this bad reputation.
Yeah, working with people that don't pay. Like I recently had I mean, it's funny. Like I don't want to give rappers a bad rap, but
Ah, love it.
but it always happens. Like I don't really want to work with rappers anymore unless they're a good person.
Okay.
So this dude apparently made or is making a feature with one of the guys from the Wu-Tang Clan,
Mhm.
and I did background vocals on it. I signed a paper that I get paid $300, no royalties, so it's a buyout for
Okay.
background vocals for this track. Well, that was a year ago. I still haven't received the money. I mean, and the track isn't ready or out yet, so I don't know what's happening there. I did sign an agreement, so I'm like, I'm holding you up to this agreement, pay up, or I won't allow you to use my vocals. And also, not to mention the waste of my time and energy. It's just such a shit show. And there's people that take advantage in this music industry all the time, like just because they're a male and you're a young female, and like, ooh, I'm gonna promise you, I'm gonna produce you, and whatnot. Like they make promises and want something in return that you as a aspiring artist, let's put it like this, like weren't looking to do. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, okay, so
that
you're
happens
being,
all
you're
the time.
being very polite, and
Yeah,
that's,
I don't want to say something.
oh, I'll say it. Uh, they're talking about the casting couch, folks. These ladies in the industry. This is the stuff they go through. Okay.
Yeah.
I know this happens in acting. I know this happens in music, in stand up. I've heard of it
Wow.
happening to women. And I know that there's a disparity in the comedy industry. For every six male performers, there's one female performer, and there's this pervasive idea that women aren't funny. Actually, my dissertation is going to be on that for my PhD, to go against that psychology and answer that. With the music industry, I'm assuming that the ratio of women to men.
Is 1% in terms of um, famous composers, producers, mixing, mastering engineers. The ratio is 1% of women make it in the music industry. What you see in terms of singers, the ratio is like 50-50 in terms of females and males, but
Mhm.
the production side of things is so minimal. And in my whole career, I've worked with not even a handful of women. Everybody else was just male. And I kind of like never questioned it until recently. I was like, oh, this is just it. And I just entered that industry at a young age and it was always men. And I thought that's just how it is. It didn't occur to me even, why aren't there more women? And in the last few years, I kind of came across, for example, my mixing engineer is female of like the EP that's coming out. I have done more like co-songwrites with females. Maybe I'm focusing more on seeking those out, or I just come across more. But yeah, the ratio is still pretty small.
Is it, and obviously this is an opinion, but to your mind, do you think it's that women don't see themselves like, that's a guy's industry and they just don't even try? Or is it, do you think it's discrimination, or do you think it's a combination of the two? I mean,
I think it's a combo. It's first of all, you know, the stereotypes. For example, when I went to film school, like people that worked in film and the video game industry were mostly males. For example, I went to school in 2010, and me and two other girls were the only girls in the program. The rest was males. And then now, if you go back to the same school, the ratio has gone up. Like there's more women taking these courses. So I think it was a stereotype that certain branches are more male dominated, like IT, film, music production, I guess. So I think it's a combo of things. Like stereotypes are being broken, women are more interested in, you know, other fields now, and also maybe given more chances in terms of getting hired for that job, or you know, getting a CEO status. It's nice to see here and there.
yeah, and the thing is that, just from my perspective, knowing, because I grew up, I had a very strong influence in my mother and my sister. They're both really solid people. Mom, she wasn't hardcore feminist. She was more just you know women are strong people, and equality, those kind of things. So having that, it was never a culture like basically what my grandfather was and others that I've known, where it's like women are less than, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I was more open-minded coming into the entertainment industry, and I found so many female comics, like the Pam Stones and the Kathleen Madigans, and Tig Notaros and Katrina Brown, and I mean, my God, Coley Reyes, just so many fantastic female comics out there, and the stigma that women aren't funny. And then I started looking around at the different industries and started realizing, like, man, there's not a lot of female representation.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered for because you're not just singing, and you're a beautiful, like, guys, I highly recommend seeking Nathalie's work out. Think somebody that sings smoky, I mean, a wide variety, but the voice is like that sensual 40s smoky jazz club, something you would hear at the beginning of a James Bond film. I mean, just exquisite. Okay.
Thank
But
you.
I'm not even complimenting you. I'm just speaking truth.
Funny, it's I get when I present my music, I guess people always say, oh, it's kind of Lana Del Rey or 007. I'm like, really? But it's also more like electro, especially my new EP, like electronic
Yeah.
dance slash pop. Anyway, it's my own creation, so feel free to check it out.
Yeah, and speaking of which, because we've got probably about 10 minutes left here, 12 minutes left.
I think my website is the best start because I have all my socials and Spotify and everything linked on there. So
And
natalieking.com with Natalie, the French spelled version, Nathalie dash king.com. Natalie-king.com.
and for those of you that are rednecks like what I grew up, it's like Nathalie.
Oh
Okay.
God.
But definitely check out the website, folks. You will not be disappointed. And the music, it's not one note. You know, so many artists you see are one note. This is not even close. Not even close. But back to the question I was going to ask you then. So you say on the production side, have you experienced those roadblocks that seem to be in front of women that I have seen happen? Okay, this is not for the listeners. This isn't woke speech. This isn't, frothing left, right, whatever. I'm just talking facts. So have you experienced those things in the industry?
Well, it depends. What do you mean by roadblocks? And again, I can't speak for all females. I can just speak for my own experience. And
And
if I
that's why I'm asking your experience, just things that it's just like men were hired to do stuff that you're just like, bro, I should have gotten that because I'm equal to or better than. And it's not sour grapes. You just know for a fact that like this is an imbalance, right?
how can I know though what they were thinking? For example, I'm not applying for jobs. I'm also not a producer. I'm not a mixing engineer. I'm a singer songwriter. So I can either perform and sing something that's pre-written, or I can songwrite a new song and perform that one, or I can songwrite for somebody else. So what I've noticed in commercials is sometimes there was like a demo asked. So I sent in a demo for a female lead vocal for a commercial. And then they also had a male version. And then a few times they picked the male version. But why is that? Because like, I don't know the reason why they picked the guy. And then finally I got a lead version for a commercial for President's Choice. And so, maybe if after 10 demos I would, and they always picked the male lead version, I would have said, oh my god, I think whatever, it feels like I have something against female vocals. But I finally got it, so I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's just what sounded better at the time, or I have no idea. So in terms of roadblocks, not really, I guess.
Okay.
uh
I don't know the industry, so that's why I'm asking, because I know what I've seen in stand up, and I know what I've also seen in the literary industry where it's swinging vastly the other way, where it's just like, good luck if you're a dude. It's basically like the attitude of, we're not doing the guy thing right now.
Well, I've never overtly been denied singing because I'm a woman. Like, it's just a different, if I was a female producer, maybe I would have a different perspective to tell you about it. But as a singer-songwriter, it's fine. It's just really hard. The nature of music is really hard to break through as a singer-songwriter because there's so many out there.
Right. Speaking of which, to get off that subject, which is inherently negative, what inspires you when you write music?
I guess my own life experiences and emotions. I have very strong emotions. I'm a very sensitive person. I had lots of childhood trauma, so I think that's where the sensitivity comes from. And that's enough. Like, I have a lot happening in my life, so I draw inspiration from that.
Okay.
Just right from the heart, basically.
So, speaking of the writing from the heart, you have mentioned, and as we're coming to a close here, I really want to emphasize what you've got coming down the pike. You stated at the end of the year you have an EP out. Now, for those, again, and part of this podcast is pulling back the curtain so people that have no idea about your world, what is the difference between an EP and an LP?
Well, EP is a short form, so it's like 3 to 5 songs. My EP has 6 songs because there's an outro on it. Long play is more like an album, I think, right? I think
Yeah.
like
Okay.
12 songs or something.
Okay. There you
Um,
go.
yeah. So again, April, I'm starting with one song off that EP. It's called
Mhm.
More, and I'm releasing it as a single. 2 months after that, I'm gonna release another song of that EP as a single as well, just to like sample it to people. And then end of summer, I'm gonna have the entire EP released. And yeah, we're just working on the music videos, the marketing strategies. I hired a PR team this time because it's starting to get really exhausting being a one-woman show. Yeah, so let's see.
So, what if somebody is going to tune in or go in? Where, first of all, aside from your website, which is
Not
www.natalie_king.com,
underscore dash.
or dash, okay, sorry, Natalie-King.com. Um, where else can they find more? That's funny.
Well, you can go pre-save it on Spotify. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. But it's all on my website if you go on there.
Okay, and what can people expect when they listen to this song, or stylistically?
Yeah, it's kind of electronic dance. It's upbeat. It's kind of chill, but also it's a very cool spring song. Like you want to drive in your car and just blast that song, or like be in a plane and listen to that song. It has this very chill but upbeat, cool vibe. Always has the undertone of melancholy in it. Maybe it's my voice, my lyrics.
That
Uh,
makes
but yeah, and it's part of the bigger story. My EP is basically my childhood trauma. I'm very proud of it. I'm like coming out with that story and telling it in public, even if my parents are gonna hear it. It's something that I was ashamed to talk about, that my whole life I was just like battling with myself, with going in therapy, going on that healing journey, which I still am. um, Mental health is very important. And so yeah, I'm finally just speaking out about it, about my childhood trauma and how this has affected me. And I think a lot of people can relate, because I think everybody experiences trauma on a certain level. And yeah, I mean, who hasn't dealt with anxiety, depression, or whatnot, right? So I think there's lots to relate to in this album, and it's finally for me to be like freeing to like just speak about it and get it out, no matter what my parents or my sister will think about it. I'm ready to like talk about it. Like I don't hold a grudge, but it was also very, very tough growing up with my family. So
all right, but you're telling your reality,
yeah.
whether they like it or not.
Yeah,
If
they did the best parenting they could, but growing up with physical and emotional abuse is fucking horrible for a child, and it stays with you.
right,
And it's a lot to work through. It affects you in lots of different aspects in your life later on, in the dating world, in self-confidence, and your work, daily life, you name it. And so,
yeah,
I forgave them. They did their best they could, but it's generational trauma being
yep.
passed on. And so I'm like, I'm ready to break it, like I worked on it very hard my whole life. And expressing it through music is also one tool of healing through it. So hopefully, I can touch some people with it, help them with music.
Right,
Just
which is kind of your MO, because you, true to your nature, you use your art to
inspire.
inspire. Exactly. So I think that's wonderful. I cannot wait to hear it, as with all of your music.
Like,
Um, so I will be one of your early customers. I promise you for that. If people want to hear, I mean, I would assume you're on Spotify and all the other places that people can find music.
yep, everywhere.
Okay, cool.
By the way, you're a prolific writer. I just wanted to say that earlier on. And like, I love your writing and your short stories. And I mean, go check Sean's work out.
I thank you for that. I trust me, from you, that is a ringing endorsement. And as a matter of fact, Natalie and I have collaborated on which the script, the Wisconsin Down thing, is actually with a production company. They're taking a look at it. I've told you that. Still don't have word back, but Natalie created a song for the movie, and I gave her a specific scene and what the atmosphere was and the tone, and took what I had envisioned and just stratosphere above what I was even thinking. So, anybody that's out there that's looking for soundtrack level quality music, anything, you can't go wrong with Miss King here. So
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
you're the best, and you know it.
So are you as a writer? Come on.
Thank you. So, got to wrap this up. Do you have any closing thoughts that you want to share with the listeners or viewers of the podcast?
Yeah, life is short. Make the best of it. You can do whatever you want if you set your mind to it. That's pretty much it.
No, well, you're a living example of it. You're a
Positive
living
quote.
example of it.
Sorry.
Um, all right. So, thank you so much for taking us on a work trip, vacation slash all the stuff that you're doing in San Francisco right now. I'm very grateful for the time that you spent here. Folks, check out Natalie's work, www.nathalie dash King, natalieking.com, natalie-king.com. Music's all over the place, all the places, the Spotify's, iHeart's, all the things, all right, is out there. And please tell us again one more time about the new EP, when, and all that.
Yeah, 5th of April, the single is coming out. It's called More. And then the EP itself is coming out later in late summer. And it's called PTSD.
Oh, you see, that's important. So the song is More, but the overall EP is called PTSD. Okay, that is
More PTSD, yes.
okay. All right, interesting to know, and an impactful title, I should say. So, all right, folks, we're going to get out of here. Thanks again for tuning into the Shank Redemption podcast.
Greetings from San Francisco. Thanks for having me, Sean. It was fun seeing you and chatting with you again.
Definitely, and I appreciate the time. Don't forget to check out my sponsors, the myvive.com and Black Label Chronometers. Don't forget Shank15, SHANK15, and you will get some awesome discounts. And, always remember.
Guess what it comes down to is get busy laughing or get busy dying.